they're moving on from the immigrants. They're now moving on to parents who abuse the system. And I've heard also EHCPs are going to be a lot more complex, and it's only for
they're trying
really,
to get rid of
really
them.
needy. Yeah.
When the odds are beating you, keep your head up. Just keep on following your line.
This is, you know, I try and remain in the middle when I'm, you know, when I'm coaching and talking with parents, because everybody has to make their own decision based on their family and what is going on.
Yeah.
But it's getting increasingly harder, I think, to remain in education like safely for our kids and for the parents to be mentally safe as well. And it really worries me what the future looks like for all of our children, because I want all of them to succeed, because they're all amazing. Now we've got new labels, and it's like the government are dragging their heels to kind of catch up with this new understanding. You know, I grew up being labelled OCD, and I didn't like my label, but I sort of, it's never defined who I am. And you know, it's really hard when you go through diagnosis with your kids as well, because, you know, they're not autism, they are autistic, and it is a part of who they are, but it's not the sum of them. And
also on that, 9 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10, it will be traits of. They'll have enough traits to be officially diagnosed, but they're not going to fit into the square box that is autistic.
Because and the problem is like they used to do the levels. Thankfully they don't do the levels anymore, but my son got given a level, and those levels are basically how the neurotypicals, how difficult they find you. It's not necessarily like you're more autistic, you know, because there are some things, you know, I don't have the autism diagnosis, but I'm like 99% sure that I have the U as well. And there are some things that me and my son can do beautifully easily on some days, and then the next day, maybe it's been too much and we can't do it the next day. We fluctuate, and it's not taken into account, especially with the kind of ongoing grind of school, that actually maybe that kid gave their all yesterday and today there's no capacity left. And then they, you know, quote unquote school refuse. They're not school refusing, they're simply saying need a bit of space. And back when we were younger as well, they did a lot more like creative stuff, didn't they? Or you had like people that would go out and, you know, learn mechanics and all that sort of stuff.
Oh my God, I have this conversation all the time, and it is really pissing me off because my son's school don't even do cooking.
No, this is another huge problem. The government has underfunded everything. They don't have a lot of the, you know, more creative and life skills.
It's not even necessarily the funding from a school's perspective, because obviously I was in the teaching facility when they started moving to STEM. And what they call the EBAC.
Yeah, I heard of that.
And that is basically destroyed our education system, because when we were talking about the early 80s and 90s, they had that element of let's just go with it. But you also look at the curriculum. I know that in my school we had the freedom that we would have design technology on our timetable, but that design technology included a term of resistant materials, the big mechanics and tools that scared the living shit out of me. But the boys were like, yeah!
I loved it. I was like, give me a saw.
But you'd also have then graphics, which is like the drawing side of it. And then you would do food tech and textiles.
They don't have all of these things in schools anymore. If you want to go to a school that does certain different things, you know, you've got to apply to certain schools out of area or things, because it's taken it right down to just being like the core curriculum. And obviously there's great worth in the core curriculum. I love education, I love learning, and I get it. But like when I did my GCSEs, I obviously did, you know, my English, my maths, my double science. I did French, but I also did drama and art. And those were really freeing to me because I didn't do design tech. So I was going to do textiles because that was something I loved.
Because you have to tick off English. I can't even remember what EBAC stands for now. It was English, but do you know what I mean? Like you had to have your English, you had to have your science, you had to have humanities subjects, and you had to have a language. And there was just no time for the fun subjects. And this became a real passion of mine because I was a drama teacher. I was a head of year and I was an additionality coordinator. So secretly, I've been doing all the same work for very many years.
Amazing.
And art was a massive passion of mine. So I did art A level, I did art at GCSE, I did drama, and I did textiles. So I am that creative person.
So I did exactly the same, except for textiles was media studies.
Oh yeah, I couldn't get into media studies. I ended up doing literature, but actually I think drama and literature, they are so closely linked.
I love it. They are 100% linked.
Yeah. Let's get down to the nitty and gritty. What can we do? What can we do, A, if our kids are school refusing, and B, if actually they are going to school, but if you, like my kids, they cope at school, they appear to be normal or neurotypical, go under the radar, unless you're bringing it up, the school wouldn't have a clue, right? But you know your child and you know that they need support. So A, what can you do to be looking out for at the start of the new school year, and B, for those who are struggling with school refusal? So 2 top tips and I'm going to shut up.
Goodness me, it's such a broad subject because of how different children react to it. I mean, excuse me, the obvious one that comes up is have you heard of the Coke bottle effect, where the children just come home and they lift the lid off and they are absolutely done, and you as mum or dad get hit with all of the big feelings. So in my experience, like literal personal experience for me, that has, the one thing I always used to do was when I picked up my kids, I didn't ask them about their day. I made the point of just literally being like, lovely to see you, miss you, and maybe tell them a bit about what I've done, what I've been up to, so that they have that, they don't have to be like, oh, yeah, because either you'll get a kid that doesn't want to talk, or they did nothing because they're a teenager, I did nothing. And that, you know, so you can't have a conversation with that. And for me, it is all down to having that communication. So I don't think this is just me, but a lot of kids find that bedtime is a good time for talking. Yeah.
100%.
So bedtime for me, I actually worked into going to bed earlier purposefully, so that even if it was just half an hour earlier, like, you know, we're getting our pajamas on and we're getting sorted, because I knew that would instigate this chat. And it's really hard to get them into bed on time if they have, you know, well, if somebody suddenly let all their emotions on you, you can't just go to sleep then, right? So by bringing it forward,
nice, yes, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Bye, no.
Yeah, bye, lights out. Yeah, you don't treat adults like that.
As an adult, you'd be like,
exactly. So I'm very much all about validating them as the little adults they are going to be in an age-appropriate manner. Yeah. So it can look many different ways. My son would literally just kind of info dump it all on me, and I would literally, he didn't necessarily need me to fix anything, he just needed me to hear him. And I think that's a great clarifying question, is, do you want mummy to fix this, or do you just want mummy to listen? And I love that. I use that all the time with everybody in my family, adults and kids alike. because as a mum, I want to fix it.
My husband asks me the same because he comes home from work and he's like, "Hi, babe. Well," he gets my vent, and I'm pretty sure that's how a lot of couples work. It can go vice versa. And then you kind of have to ask yourself, and then if you need to, visibly and actually ask them, am I just listening right now, venting? What do you need from me?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just really important to treat your kids in that same respect. You know, they are little people with big feelings that actually, depending on their age, they can't name or address or know what to do. And then, you know, so my son would info dump on me, and then, you know, that would usually end up in a hug. And then it was easier then to kind of, you know, get to that point of like, well, let's chill out. We could get into the whole technology side of things for neurodiverse kids, but I didn't have a problem with it because it helped him relax. So he would quite often go to bed with a movie and just lie in bed on his iPad. And then that would be, because I'd instigated it earlier in the evening, we're still on a pretty good timeline for trying to get up in the morning for school. But then with Phoenix, there were just no words. There were no words to express what was going on. It was all behaviour. It was all anger, hitting, kicking, frustration. So with Phoenix, I got a worry monster who ate the worries. And we started that, I think, when Phoenix was about 8.
I think because Jack was year 4. So is that the same, about the same age then?
Yeah. And that's just a wondrous thing. I got mine on Amazon. We've still got them to this day. And one of the I got has got like a zipper mouth, and so they can eat the worries, and then obviously they're gone by the morning, which I think is great because that enables them to get it out and you as a parent to see a little bit more of what's going on.
100%. I am going to put in there as a caveat, train your child to let you know if you put it in there, like have it as a verbal cue or like a magic words or something, so you know it's in there, because I made that mistake.
It's a bit like the tooth fairy, isn't it?
Yeah.
You suddenly go,
gotta let me know.
But so you know, obviously that is another ask on you as a parent, but I think it's for me, these things are, I'm not going to say they're easy to instigate and do, but I'm going to say that they're worth the fight to change it, because it literally gets to that point of, well, we either carry on the same way we're going or we try and make a shift. So we end up with, you know, different problems with, you know, my kids are literally the opposite. So I've got had to learn, you know, because nobody taught me these things. Nobody helped me. I've got an amazing partner. I've got an amazing mum, super supportive, but it was down to me at the end of the day. I was the one sort of pulling the mental load on everything. And it's really exhausting. So I think, just to sum up, you know, validating the feelings, allowing them to be angry. For some reason, we don't let kids be angry. I don't quite understand why not. Obviously, we want them to be safe whilst being angry. And again, littlest, punching bag, brilliant. Yeah, find a positive way that they can engage in doing whatever it is that they need to do, if it's because of frustration or sensory, whatever that is.
When the odds are beating you, keep your head